recommendation to remove the Auditor General from the slate of commissioners serving the Integrity Commission. The vote happened along strict party lines, with government members saying yes to the proposal and opposition members saying no already. The opposition leader Mark Golding has signaled his intention to reverse the change if and when the PNP forms the next government. He says there's no reason to disturb the commission as currently comprised. The Auditor General does nothing to inhibit the workings of the commission as things stand now. So what are the merits and demerits in this discussion? Where does fact and the truth lie? I intend to probe at those things in the episode of Lead Story on this Thursday. Let's start the show. Welcome to Lead Story on this Thursday. My name is George Davis. But perhaps one of the only things that we are sure of where the Auditor General's position on the slate of commissioners at the Integrity Commission is concerned is that it's not about Mrs. Pamela Monroe Ellis, one of our finest public servants across political sides, regardless of your persuasion or your intent. Nobody questions the competence of this woman or her impartiality. So we're accepting that it's not about her. It's about the position of Attorney General and how some see that position not being needed on the slate of commissioners, given the Auditor General's very important role of being the chief auditor of ministries, departments, agencies, public bodies, and local authorities. With that being said, the Joint Select Committee of Parliament, looking at the Integrity Commission Act, they accepted that proposal, as I said in my opening, to dispense with the Auditor General as a member of the commission at the Integrity, one of the commissioners rather, at the Integrity Commission. And in case you missed it, we're bringing you up to speed with this.
In a meeting on Wednesday, government members of the Joint Select Committee reviewing the Integrity Commission Act of 2017 used their majority to push through a recommendation to remove the Auditor General as a commissioner of the Integrity Commission. The move, spearheaded by Member of Parliament for St. Catharines Southwestern, Everald Warmington, asserts that the Auditor General's presence on the IC is a breach of the Constitution.
Section 120, 121, and 122 of the Constitution makes it clear of a responsibility and can't be a part of any of the board or bodies. So, in effect, this is a breach of the Constitution in including her as a commissioner, based on Section 120, 121, and 122 of the Constitution.
In response, Solicitor General Marlene Aldred reassured the committee that nothing in the Constitution prevented the Auditor General from being a member of the IC.
Even though 120 sub 3 talks about has held, I would also say that the office of a commissioner is not a public office as defined in the Constitution.
Still, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck sided with his colleagues.
With a body that is being provided with almost $2 billion worth of government money, the Integrity Commission is almost as big as many ministries. And it requires, in my view, the full force of the Auditor General's Department to investigate not only the IC, not that I'm saying they've done anything wrong, but it must be clear to Parliament how the funds provided are being used. I'm sure we can find other good persons to become commissioners. It's not the type we have anything against the Auditor General being a member in terms of the integrity of the person.
Meanwhile, opposition members Julian Robinson and Dr. Maurice Guy objected to the move.
In my understanding, where audits are done of the Integrity Commission, they're done not by the Auditor General's Department, but by an independent accounting firm, which removes that issue of a conflict of interest. But I would not support her removal from the Integrity Commission.
The recommendation will now be included in a report sent to Parliament for final consideration. We discuss on Lead Story.
After the break, I hear from a public commentator and a veteran attorney. To set this discussion in context, I think it's important for me to read from a 2-page statement to the media sent by former chairman of the Integrity Commission, retired Justice Seymour Panton, in 2021 on this very same issue of the Auditor General's presence as a commissioner of the Integrity Commission. And he said, it needs to be pointed out, these are Seymour Panton's words now, it needs to be pointed out that the presence of the Auditor General on the Integrity Commission is not a recent occurrence. For nearly 50 years, the Auditor General, he wrote, has been a member of Jamaica's commissions dealing with integrity, and there has not been a dissenting voice as to that situation until recently. It would be good to know, Seymour Panton wrote, what, if anything, has happened in recent times to bring into question the Auditor General's membership of the Commission. I turn to my guests this evening. Shane Dalling is an attorney at law and has been so for a while, and is a man who teaches constitutional law. And Jermaine Barrett is a student of politics and a public commentator, and a man whose reputation is growing by the day. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Lead Story.
Good evening, George, and thanks for those kind sentiments.
You know I'm going to treat you well, Jermaine, because you deserve it.
Though.
There you go. Excellent. Let me start with counsel here, Jermaine, to give us even sharper context. Everald Warmington, in that Joint Select Committee meeting on Wednesday, Sir Shane Dalling, leaned heavily on the Constitution. And then hearts were in mouths when the Solicitor General said, not quite, Mr. Warmington, you're not quite accurate with how you've interpreted what the Constitution has set down. In that argument about the constitutional integrity of the Auditor General's seat as a commissioner of the Integrity Commission, where does truth lie?
Okay, let me explain. For the benefit of the listeners, for their own research, go to section 120, subsection 3 of the Constitution of Jamaica. It says that a person who has held the office of Auditor General shall not be eligible for appointment to any other public office. Then it begs the question, is a commissioner of the Integrity Commission a public office? You then go to the Integrity Commission Act itself. Section 8 speaks of the appointment of commissioners, and it says the Auditor General, 4 other persons hereinafter referred to as appointed commissioners. And Section 23 of the Integrity Commission Act addresses the issue of public office. Section 23 says, the office of chairman or appointed commissioner shall not be a public office for purposes of Chapter 5 of the Constitution of Jamaica. Please note that in Section 23, it does not mention the Auditor General as being barred from holding the public office. Under Chapter 5 of the Constitution, it protects the other 4 members of the Commission, but not the Auditor General, which essentially means the Auditor General, for purpose of the Act, is holding a public office, which would be in contravention of Section 120, subsection 3 of the Constitution of Jamaica.
So just for further clarity, the chairman of the Integrity Commission, retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick, set her aside, and the 4 appointed members who have come from business and banking and other fields, but who have not come to the post while being the leader of any public authority. You're saying that they are protected.
The Act of Parliament actually protects them because it says in Section 8 of the Act that the appointed members, and it names the appointed members as the 4 other persons other than the Auditor General. And Section 23 goes on to say that those 4 appointed members, for purpose of Chapter 5 of the Constitution, those are not public office, which puts the Auditor General therefore in trouble because it did not protect the Auditor General because Section 120, subsection 3 of the Constitution says that she cannot hold another public office.
So the constitutionality argument for you is settled?
In my view, yes.
On the Constitution, in your view, the Auditor General ought not to have that seat as commissioner.
That's correct, based on the legislative framework.
For sure. Jermaine Barrett, from the political perspective now, how are you viewing this? Through what prism are you seeing this, the Auditor General as the football, as government and opposition side, jostle for supremacy?
I think, George, I think the administration has effectively given the opposition rather a bit of ammunition to wage a war against them, quite frankly. We know that matters relating to the Integrity Commission have been most controversial for some time now. And I find it difficult to understand why it is that at this time, this particular attempt is being made to disturb the Integrity Commission at the time when we're in the political silly season. I'm not suggesting at all that the moves by the administration are wrong. I leave that to the legal luminaries to opine on. But politically, I don't know that there's much to be gained politically from.
But I would say this to you, though, Jermaine. I'd say this to you, Jermaine, that these sentiments about the Auditor General and her place as a commissioner, which have crystallized in the decision that you got on Wednesday in that Joint Select Committee, this isn't new news, so to speak. This is old hat, because from about 2018, 2019, this thing was before Parliament, to the extent in 2019, Justice Panton wrote a scathing, and he always say when Justice Panton writes, he writes scathing letters, He wrote a scathing letter to the editor at the Gleaner, berating the Gleaner for what he saw as a campaign to have Mrs. Pamela Monroe Ellis removed as Auditor General, as a commissioner, based on what the government was saying at that time. So this isn't new, and this, of course, predates the controversy about you-know-who's statutory declarations. So it's just that you know how these processes work. Things have just congealed at this point. But it wasn't yesterday or last week or last month that the government went to move in this direction.
No, George, I'm not suggesting that this just happened here and now. We know parliamentary processes take some time, and it has evolved over some time. You are absolutely correct. But it has now become central in the news cycle and the conversations that have been had within the public domain because of what transpired most recently just this week. Yes. And so you would have heard the pronouncements from the opposition leader and so forth. Again, I'm not suggesting that the opposition leader has the right handle on this situation at this time. But again, it has caused public conversations that I don't think helps the administration, given the political sort of proceedings that are now ongoing.
I see the point. Thank you. Hold the line right there, Jermaine. Hold on, Shane Daly. More on Lee's story after this. About the Auditor General and that decision by the Joint Select Committee of Parliament looking at the Integrity Commission Act to vote and accept the proposal that the Auditor General's position of Auditor General be removed from the commissioners of the Integrity Commission. Not about Pamela Monroe Ellis, that's agreed. It's about the position of Auditor General. Here's the thing now. I want to tackle Learned Counsel on this very important point that was raised in the debate in Parliament on Wednesday, raised before in previous debates on this issue, and which, of course, is a subject that is raised by the sensible people who discuss this issue in the various fora that they do. That, look, to have someone, the Auditor-in-Chief of the country, Auditor General, I don't need to pretty it up, don't need to put it any other way, it communicates exactly what she is, Auditor General. To have someone like the Auditor General, hands tied on the Integrity Commission as a commissioner, can't audit the Integrity Commission because she's a part of the organization. The benefit of having her auditing the Integrity Commission is more significant than her being a part of the commission and helping it with its work. What does the law say, if anything, about that? People are saying she should be free to do her J job, which is to audit that body and all other such bodies. She should not be sitting there to tie her hands, preventing her from doing that work.
Well, let me explain. The Constitution of Jamaica envisaged that sort of conflict, and it makes it clear at Section 122, subsection 5, that in addition to the role of the Auditor General auditing the books of the government of Jamaica, the Auditor General is not restricted from auditing the books of public bodies, public authorities, agencies or department of government, or any other public entity that receives public funds. It is known and clear that the Integrity Commission receives public funds.
Yes,
over
lots
$1 billion.
Lots of it, yes.
Of it. Now, Section 20 of the Integrity Commission Act does give the Integrity Commission the right to appoint an independent auditor to audit its books, to do its annual reports. However, Section 13A of the Public Bodies Management Act, as well as Section 30 of the Financial Administration and Audit Act, says that notwithstanding the provision in any other enactment, the Auditor General of Jamaica can go into any public body and audit that public body and provide such report to Parliament. The position of the Auditor General on the Integrity Commission raises a conflict of interest should the Auditor General Department decide to go in and audit the Integrity Commission, with the Auditor General being a commissioner / board member on the commission. It then begs the question, what if someone should call for an independent audit of the Integrity Commission by the Auditor General? What would be the position where that report is adverse in terms of its reporting on the use of public funds by the Integrity Commission? The Auditor General now would be in crosshair.
Yes.
And the Constitution seeks to protect the Auditor General's office from that sort of controversy when it created Section 120, subsection 3, by stating that the person should not be part of any public office. For that very reason, the Auditor General should be like Caesar's wife.
Yes.
Beyond reproach.
Yes. Jermaine, here's the thing now. And I looked this up, but what counsel gave me a window to the question without me even having had to find this beforehand. I just looked up before I came here the roles and responsibilities of directors of a board. For even though the Integrity Commission has people with director on their title, the real directors are the commissioners, because they are the commissioners of the board, which is led by a chairman, okay? Why is it then that we would waste the Auditor General on a board of directors effectively to exert oversight, to talk about governance and compliance, risk management, accountability? Because many people, I'm sure, would believe that the Auditor General's presence lends itself to the processes of the Commission, examining statutory declarations, bringing this expertise to bear. But that's not so, because as a member of the board, you don't operate at that level. Why then do we need to trap the Auditor General up on the board when the skills of the Auditor General could be better used to audit annually the Integrity Commission? I put that to you for your consideration, sir.
And you're absolutely spot on, George, because as you've just opined, and not just opined, pointed out, the Auditor General being a commissioner within the commission of the Integrity Commission does not lend any particular greater expertise relative to the disadvantages that we're pointing out here, where her office cannot be utilized to probe the administration of the Integrity Commission. I mean, it's beyond just probing financial matters and how it is that public funds are being used by the Integrity Commission. It's also looking at big questions surrounding the performance of the Integrity Commission. We've been hearing concerns about, and requests for a need for a performance audit of the Integrity Commission. And so the great capacity of the Auditor General is being effectively barred from being utilized to the best extent to provide great public confidence in whatever results come about from audits, be they financial audits or performance audits or whatever. And so the idea that the Integrity Commission can essentially or is vested with the capacity to enlist an independent auditor does not fully address the issue of it no longer being able to utilize the greatest capacity that this country have to audit and to certify or to bring to public attention issues that are of concern to the public interest.
Yes, and Counsel, the issue of conflict of interest, thank you for that, Jermaine. The issue of conflict of interest doesn't only arise when it arises. You have to see the potential for it and move to nip it in the bud. And so I say that to say that when it is, and if it is the previous status quo with the Auditor General as a commissioner, and even if they brought in KPMG or Pricewaterhouse or one of the world's leading auditing firms to do their audit, if John Public believes that something is amiss at the Integrity Commission, the presence of the Auditor General as a commissioner would inhibit John Public's ability to write to the Auditor General and say, as our Auditor General, please go and see how my money is being spent at the Integrity Commission, because then you'd put the Auditor General in that conflict. And by removing her, you remove that conflict, appears to be the reasoning.
That's correct. You must never forget the appearance of bias, well-established principle in the Pinochet case that was at the House of Lords, that the Lord Hoffman was in some way associated with Amnesty International, who was advocating for the extradition of President Pinochet.
Augusto Pinochet of Chile,
Right.
for those students of politics, yes.
Yes. So it was ruled that his mere presence on the panel of judges deciding Pinochet's fate was a conflict of interest. And so you have real, actual, and perceived conflict of interest. Now, it is perceived based on the circumstances that the Integrity Commission would be protected from the eyes or the glares of the Auditor General because she sits on it. And that is not the privileged position that other public bodies have, because although they have their independent auditor, the Auditor General still audits those bodies. And therefore, is the Integrity Commission being protected not from any allegation, but from the public glare of the Auditor General with the presence of the Auditor General on the Commission?
And on that note, we have to leave it, gentlemen. Jermaine, I'm out of time. Thank you very much, my friend. Always good to talk to you.
Indeed, thank you for